Dear fellow YouTubers, running speedtest.net while playing Stadia games is in no way, shape, or form a proper way to measure network utilization or bandwidth usage by Google Stadia. Yours truly, Franklin Reed. So I finally got my Stadia Founders Edition over the weekend. So what that means is I can finally bring you guys my comprehensive review on Google Stadia. Well, not exactly. You see, because Stadia is a service and Google is definitely leveraging the CI/CD process, they could actually be releasing code to Stadia right now as we speak, making improvements to the platform and making for better streaming. So because of this unique nature, instead of calling it a comprehensive review, I'd rather call it a first look or a launch review of Google Stadia. And we'll probably come back and revisit it in a couple of months or after they've made any major development changes. So first, let's take a quick look at what's in the box. In the box, you'll find your Stadia controller, a USB-C cable, and USB-C power adapter. And right under that, you will find your Founders Edition Chromecast Ultra alongside a power brick that has a conveniently placed Ethernet port. Now for the setup process, it is fairly simple. It takes about 10 minutes, but you are going to need a Stadia compatible device. Now for me, I ended up using my Google Pixel 4 for the setup, and I ran into absolutely no issues. However, I did hear around the internet that some Android phones and some iPhones are not compatible, so your mileage may vary. So what was my general experience with Google Stadia? Well, as long as I used it under Google's recommended conditions, my experience was pretty good. The latency isn't non-existent as some of the marketing materials might try to have you believe, but it definitely is good enough, especially for single player or offline story-based titles, or even the PvE portions of Destiny. It definitely is playable on Google Stadia. But this inherently is one of the major issues with Google Stadia, because once you deviate from the recommended conditions, you're going to have an experience that's almost unusable. And if Stadia is only enjoyable in those exact perfect conditions, which I presume you would only have at home, at that point is it any better than a gaming console or a massive PC? And now it's time for the testing part of the video. Now as always, before we jump into the actual tests, let's check out our testing environment. So for our internet connection, we are using Verizon Fios residential service. Now the speeds I pay for are gigabit, and I do generally see around 900 megabits down and about 800 megabits up. Now my internal network is not powered by Verizon's equipment. Instead, it's powered by other hardware that I'm a lot more comfortable working with. So for my gateway or my security appliance, I'm running a homebrew box that's powered by pfSense Community Edition. And when it comes to my layer 2 and 3 switching and my wireless service, I rely on Cisco Meraki equipment. And for those who are truly interested in networking, I'll just go through this really quickly. So this is my home Meraki network, and I'll just pop over into my switch real quick, and I have my Stadia connected to port number 7. And that's the only thing connected to it, nothing else. I'm just gonna change the statistics for the last 2 hours. And I spent a little bit of time playing Google Stadia. And as you guys can actually see, it truly does not use that much bandwidth. So we're around that 11 megabit side of things. The highest I've actually ever seen it use is around 32 megabits per second, so it is pretty much doing its best it can, using as little bandwidth as possible. One thing that I also noticed over here that was pretty interesting is actually the amount of data it's been using. As you guys can see here, this was just me playing for a couple of minutes doing a bit of testing, and this language is a little bit backwards. The sent is actually what it's received, and the received is actually what it's sent, because it's speaking on the actual terms of the port itself. But as you guys can see, in about 30 minutes of gameplay, I used about 2 gigabytes of data. So that's what I was talking about. If anybody wanted to actually use this with the hotspot, it definitely would eat through your data in a matter of an hour maybe. So with that out of the way, let's have a look at our latency and performance test. And now it is time for the good old latency test. Now for this test, we're gonna be doing the classic high frame rate camera, tape your screen and tape your controller, and see how long it takes for your character to react to your button input. So first up is Google Stadia connected to Ethernet. And as you guys can see, once I press the button, we do get a fairly reactive character on the screen. Next up is the Xbox One X connected to Ethernet. Not that it really matters, but in this situation, I loaded up into the exact same location. I believe it's on Titan in Destiny 2, and we're gonna be doing the exact same test. Now, while they both react pretty fast, it is pretty clear that the Stadia does have a bit of latency behind it. Now, it's not unusable, it's definitely still playable, and I actually played for hours like this, but it is something that is noticeable, primarily when you switch back and forth between a local console or a PC and Google Stadia. So for our next test, this is actually something I haven't seen a lot of people do. We're going to be doing a sound latency test. So what I'm doing here is I'm snapping so you guys can see that the sound is in sync with the actual video, and then what I've done is place my Rode Wireless Go lavalier set inside of my headphone cup so you can hear what actually comes out of the headphones, and we're going to be doing the same exact latency test. And as you probably can tell, there is a significant delay in the actual audio. So now that we've gone over the latency of Stadia using the Chromecast Ultra, what about the general usability on all those other platforms like mobile and in your Chrome browser? Well, for that I set up a small test. Now for this, I did take my laptop into my living room, and my access point is actually in my living room as well, about 8 feet away, with nothing blocking in between, no walls or anything like that. And for those who are interested in my Wi-Fi statistics, here they are up on the screen. I'm connected with AC wireless on a 5 GHz network, and my speeds are pretty decent as well. Within a 5-minute span, I experienced about 5 different events of stuttering, and my character was almost uncontrollable. So that's Google Stadia thus far, and while it might be inconsistent, if you do have the perfect network environment, it's actually a super impressive service. But as I mentioned earlier, that's inherently the problem with Google Stadia and other streaming services alike, like Nvidia GeForce Now and Shadow. They're so dependent on that perfect network that they end up not really working in the real world. I also question Google's target demographic. I mean, right now there's way too much latency and skepticism for the hardcore audience, and the network dependencies are way too sensitive for the road warrior, i.e. I don't think Stadia is going to work out well on hotel Wi-Fi, airport Wi-Fi, and it's going to eat through your mobile hotspot data like that. And most casuals, which seems like their real target audience, don't necessarily have the home network to support a platform like Stadia. So then Google is just stuck with early adopters and technology enthusiasts like myself who have fast Twitter fingers and berate the internet looking for answers and improvements on their current Stadia platform. So as of right now, I think we're just going to have to wait and see how Google Stadia and even other cloud gaming platforms turn out. With the continuing advancement of technologies like 5G and other data compression methodologies, eventually we'll get there and cloud gaming will be a thing. But as of right now, I'm going to stick to my guns of my original videos on Google Stadia and just say that the internet just isn't ready for cloud gaming. Alright guys, so that is going to wrap it up for this ongoing review of Google Stadia. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Also, while you guys are down there, if you like this video, hit the like button, and if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, consider subscribing. Once again guys, my name is Fran. Thanks for checking out this video. I'll see you guys in my next one.